the truth is, I just didn't have all the information, which is one of those things where you can make decisions, but when you don't have all the info, well, it may not be true.
Welcome to Investment Grade Practices Podcast, where we believe private practice dentists deserve to get the lifestyle today while building an asset for tomorrow. Join your host, Victoria Peterson, to design the practice of your dreams and secure your financial independence. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Investment Grade Practice. There are days that you wake up and you just know it's going to be a fabulous day. And today is one of those. I have my partner in crime, Dr. Bruce B. Baird, on the line with me talking about the new landscape for building investment grade practices. How you doing, Bruce?
I am doing great, Victoria. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just to give our listeners a picture, you are on your way to Iceland.
I am on my way to Iceland. I'm sitting in a Lufthansa lounge in Newark, New Jersey, and we're leaving in about an hour to head to Iceland for about 8 days. So looking forward to that. It's been on my bucket list.
I love it. You know, anytime people say, this sounds too good to be true, this IGP model where you get to live your life you want to now and build an asset, I always look to you. We've been partners for 18 years, and I want to say, what was it, 15 years ago, you started working 2 days a week. Your production went up. Your take-home pay has been great. You've lived life on your terms.
No question. No question. I just wish I would have known what I know today, because it would have been different. I mean, it would have been better, 10 times better. But I mean, it can be done in any environment. But what I love is what we're able to do now with capital events, and to be able to take some of your wealth off the table and invest it in whatever it is you decide to invest it in, pay off debt, do the things you want to do. And to me, that gives you freedom. And my way of looking at it in the past has been, I'm going to work really hard, make a lot of money. That's going to create freedom. I don't discount the fact that we're going to have to work hard and we're going to do great things, but the opportunities today far outweigh the opportunities of yesterday.
Well, let's talk about that. I love this perspective of, you know, what would my 60-year-old self tell my 40-year-old self to do? So there's some wisdom here, but there's also a huge market shift that wasn't even available or conceived 20 years ago that doctors in their 40s can take advantage of. So why don't we talk about that a little bit on what you said? Sure. How do I take equity off the table without losing the thing that I love about being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, there's today the opportunities because of the values of dental practices, which have continued to rise over the last really 12 years. It changes the entire environment. I've been telling people from the front of the room, and I feel personally obligated to reach out to all these docs, as we've had thousands of docs come through PDA. And I feel personally obligated because I would tell them, why on earth would you sell to a DSO when you're 40 years old? And I know guys that have sold at 35, 44, 48, whatever. And the truth is, I just didn't have all the information, which is one of those things where you can make decisions, but when you don't have all the info, well, it may not be true. And the way I look at it today is, if I could take a capital event, meaning at 40 years old, get 9x, 8x, 9x, 10x of my practice EBITDA, and reinvest a certain percentage of that, 30% or 40%, back into a new code that's going to continue to grow. The cool part of that is it allows me to, let's just use an example of $1 million in EBITDA. And, you know, that's a kick in practice. That's a $4 or $5 million practice. So you can extrapolate if you're half that or if you're whatever, but extrapolate those thoughts. You're going to sit here and work for 40 years. You're going to sell the practice for $500,000, $800,000, $1 million. That's going to be the game, because things are changing. They're changing rapidly. what if you could have $1 million in EBITDA, put $7 million in your pocket, roll $3 million forward into a new co or into stock of part of a new co. All of a sudden, the second bite of the apple becomes 15 million more. Now you've created 22 million in value, and you've taken it off the table. But you get to still keep practicing dentistry the way you've always done it. It's just you have no debt. You do whatever you want. You work as many days as you want, and you're creating that using leverage. And that's a whole different animal than what I was taught, what I learned. And if I knew then what I know now, well, truth is it wasn't available then, but it is available now.
I love that. So for listeners who are kind of catching up to this conversation, it's kind of a mind melt and a mind trap to say, well, how do I take equity off how did I get $7 million from my $1 million practice today? All of these things that you talked about. So let's break it down a little bit.
Sure.
Practices are being bought and sold based on profitability. So wherever you are in your journey, start becoming more profitable. We actually have a calculator on our website now, and I'll share the link in the show notes. I think Productive Dentist Academy might be the only consulting firm out there that has dissected the private equity playbook and can, with pretty smooth accuracy, look into the crystal ball and say, this is what my practice could sell for today. This is what it could look like in 5 years, whether I sold to a solo practitioner, a private group, or a DSO. And it's really powerful when you understand what your end game is. And Stephen Covey says that, right? Start with the end in mind and then back it up. I think the challenge for most doctors is we never had an end game. The end game was work till you're 65, put some money in a 401k and hope you have enough to last you till you're 90. But
100%.
the end game can shift because the economy went crazy, because interest rates are going up, because the stock market is volatile. What is a private equity investor, Bruce? Can you talk to our audience about that? And why do private equity investors want to be in dentistry?
Well, private equity is one of those things I've just learned some, in the last 6 months, I've learned more about private equity investment banking than ever. I've learned more. And the truth is, I can tell a little story, is that if you had $100 million sitting in your bank account, $100 million, and what do you do with that money? Well, guess what? People who have that kind of money, they actually put that money up with private equity companies. And they sign contracts with these private equity companies that guarantee them a 12% return or a 10 or a 14, whatever it happens to be. It's a guaranteed return for a fixed amount of time. Might only be 5 years, might be 7. So the private equity says this is a closed fund. It's a 5-year fund or 7. And we're going to pay you 5 times 12, $60 million for your $100 million. And at the end of that 5 years, we are going to give you your $100 million back, and you will have already received $12 million a year during that time. So what's the game for private equity? They have to increase profitability. They have to find other private equity guys that will buy them out because they have closed-end funds. And so it's almost a game that's played among private equity. The same private equity groups sell to other private equity groups, and then the next time they sell to each other. And so this is closed funds that is an enormous amount of money, institutional money, retirement funds, all these different things where there's so much money, they need return. Dentistry is the best return right now in all of healthcare. In fact, probably the biggest across the board in any business. And so they are paying a premium, much more of a premium than they were 12 years, much more than a premium than they were even 5 years ago. Today, you're starting to hear, which something's really important, you're starting to hear things like 7x multiples and 8x, when back 12 years ago it was 5x or 6x. Well, how does that work? Well, it all depends on your EBITDA. We've evaluated 10 offers for one single office. 10 different DSOs came in and offered a payout to this practice. 10 different ones, and the EBITDA was different on all 10. So people get confused thinking EBITDA is a fixed number. It should be, but DSOs don't think it should be, because they can adjust your EBITDA and say, oh no, we don't figure that in usual EBITDA. And you're going, oh, okay, because you don't know any better. And so all of a sudden your EBITDA goes from 400 to 300, but they still offer you the same amount, which say 2.4 or whatever. And all of a sudden you're sitting here and it's an 8X, not a 5X or a 6X. And it's literally baked into the way they do business. And so when you hear about 8X, 7X, 6X, don't believe it. I mean, we've got to be able to, one of the things we're doing at Productive Dentist Academy is we're figuring out what is your true EBITDA? What can we take? Well, I'm not going to say take the bank, but what can we hang our hat on and say, this is your EBITDA? And now we're going to increase it. That's the one thing I love about investment grade practice. We're going to continue to increase your EBITDA, and we're figuring it out every single month so that, you know that you're increasing your profitability, your profits of your practice. And that's the perfect opportunity because you actually know. And I have to say, I sold 12 years ago to Heartland. I didn't even know what my EBITDA was. That's so sad. I mean, they gave me an offer. It was a lot of money, but anything would have been a lot of money to me 12 years ago. And so today we're going to standardize that with our clients and with people we work with.
I love that. I'm so happy that I could catch you on your way to Iceland. You are an icon in dentistry for several reasons. One, you never stop learning. You are ferocious, and you're still taking clinical classes after you hung up the handpiece. You're actively engaging and developing new businesses and working with me and the team on developing deeper, richer content for PDA. It's always evolving, and it's always great to catch up with you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, dentistry is a passion of mine. Obviously, been doing it for 42 years, and I don't want to just putting up the handpiece is one thing, which I did 2.5 years ago, but the new printing technology, the new things that are out there that can increase profitability, increase the ability to be able to take care of patients in a much higher level. Gosh, I love that. I want to keep doing it. I'm not sure physically I can do it, but I can sure help dentists do it.
I love it. Well, congratulations on your new book, Legendary Leader.
Thank you.
Quite a thrill to see your big mug on Times Square.
That was amazing. I had a lot of people calling me out of the clear blue saying, what is going on? So it was great. I loved it. It was awesome.
Well, thank you so much. We'll also put in our show notes how you can order Bruce's new book, Legendary Leadership. So if you're looking to take your leadership game to the next level and not skin your knees and bumps and bruises along the way, I highly, highly recommend Bruce's book. Bruce,
thanks.
My friend, it was great to be with you today.
Oh my gosh, great to talk to you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Investment Grade Practices Podcast. If you find value in this episode, help us spread the word by passing it along to a dental friend, subscribe, and give us a like on iTunes or Spotify. Learn more about building your investment grade practice at productivedentist.com today.